Hello, I'm Alfie Sanderson, and today I'm going to be cooking a few of my favourite Christmas canapés for you. I'm going to be making a delicious little Christmas canapé using some locally shot venison from the Grimsthorpe estate, along with some caramelised cauliflower puree, a few brown butter hazelnuts, and then finish it off with a little bit of pickled shallot as well, and then a few cauliflower textures thrown in there as well. To begin with, I'm going to trim up our loin so it's in a good shape for rolling with the cling film. We'll get that rolled, seared off, and then frozen. You want to make sure all of this silver skin is removed, because there's going to be a very light colour on the meat, so we don't want any stringy or chewy bits because it's being eaten raw. Next, we're going to give it quite a heavy season, just with some salt. If you wanted, you could make yourself a little spice rub, get a few Christmas notes in there, mix of cloves, juniper, star anise, cinnamon, you know, bringing those festive flavours out. But for today, I'm going to keep it nice and simple, a little bit of salt, well seasoned, and then it'll be ready to sear in the pan. I'm just going to cut this in half just so it's a little bit easier to handle. Beautiful. So the pan is nice and hot, plenty of heat in there now, so we're just going to get a real quick sear on these. Honestly, a few seconds. You want to keep it as raw as possible in the centre. It helps if you cook them straight out the fridge. Controversial to cooking a normal steak, but just means that the centre of the meat is nice and cold. It takes a lot longer to cook. Just like so. And we're just going to finish these off with a quick blowtorch. Just get a nice char on them. Great stuff. So those little flecks of charredness will give a nice bitter note to the final dish once it's all sliced. So what we'll do now is we'll go into rolling these so we've got a nice cylinder-like shape. Makes it a lot easier for when it comes to cutting. Easiest way of doing this is taking your work surface, getting it a little bit wet, and unravelling your cling film onto that. Like so. Spreading that out. Depending on how big your loin is, you may have to double it up. You just want that in the centre there. Nice and tight. Like so. Like that, and then pull the ends out. Twist, so, and then a little roll. just like that. Then you've got yourself a nice sausage-like venison loin, which we'll then put in the freezer to semi-firm up for when we're carving a little bit later on. Now we're on to the next element of the dish, the caramelised cauliflower puree. This is almost the most essential part of the canapé. It brings a lovely depth of caramel as well as a little bit of smokiness to it to really tie everything in together and complement that venison. To begin with, we're going to break down this cauliflower into sort of medium-sized chunks, which will then follow through to our caramelisation in the pan. And we're just going to go straight down the middle. Leave that to one side. Down the middle again. And we've got some oil on the heat, just a little bit in the bottom, quite a high heat. And we're going to be adding the cauliflower to that shortly. It doesn't really matter how you chunk these up, just as long as there's enough sort of surface area on there to caramelise, should be good to go. So now we'll add these to the pan. So the key to this part of the process is making sure not to move that cauliflower. If you start moving it, it won't gain as much colour. So you just want to leave it in the pan and just keep checking it. And as soon as it's got that real deep caramelisation on it, we can then begin to flip. So these have been frying away for about 10 minutes now. Really dark brown colour, almost on the fringe of burning. You kind of want that sort of little bit of bitterness in there. Really dark brown sort of caramel flavour. Just going to add a few knobs of butter in there, just while it continues cooking, just to lift off any of that caramelisation from the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to go in with our double cream, and we want to really reduce the heat down. It's probably about a medium. You just want it on a real gentle simmer to cook out the rest of that cauliflower, to really absorb those other caramel flavours. Just like so. And we're going to leave that uncovered and to simmer for about 30 minutes, 35 minutes, until sort of the cream's reduced by quite a lot, and it's just covering the cauliflower and it's taken on all those cauliflower caramelizations that were happening on the bottom of the pan. So now we're going to begin the pickling mix to go with the shallots. So in a dry pan, we've got some coriander seed, some clove, some juniper, and some star anise. Again, bringing out those Christmas flavours that pair very nicely with the venison. These are getting lightly toasted in a dry pan over a medium-high heat to release those natural oils and make them nice and aromatic. This is then going to be added to our pickling mix. In here, equal parts vinegar, sugar, and water. So we'll start off with the white wine vinegar in the bottom there, and then we're going to balance it out with the same weight of sugar, like so, and then top that up with some water. That's then going to be brought to the boil to dissolve that sugar in the bottom there. Then we're going to add a little touch of salt as well. Again, just for balance, not too much. Now that these have been lightly toasted, all those essential oils that are within each of the aromats been nicely released. We'll add these to the pickling mix. let those diffuse the flavour. And while that's being brought up to the boil, we can get on with these shallots. All you want to do with these, take the end off, little incision in the skin there, give them a nice peel. We'll just give this a little taste just to make sure it's all balanced right. Yeah, I'd say it's about there, to be fair. So we're going to get this over those shallots, soften them up. Like so. So the final component of the dish are brown butter hazelnuts. This is going to add a nice little texture, a little bit of nuttiness to really complement the rest of the ingredients. Delicious this time of year, and with this brown butter adding that extra nuttiness, it can really enhance the dish. So we're going to start off getting a good amount of butter in the pan on a pretty high heat and getting that all nice and browned off. So essentially what we want to be doing is caramelising the milk solids within the butter. So we'll let that melt down, and when those solids start to go brown, that's the point where we want to be adding the hazelnuts. And to that, we're going to add our hazelnuts. Add a good amount of hazelnuts in there, and get them nicely toasted off in that butter, absorbing all of that flavour. Now you just want to let these foam away on the stove top for a little bit, and then what we can do is get them in the oven roasting and release a few more of those nutty oils to really enhance that within the dish. So for the final stages of the preparation, we're going to blend our cauliflower puree with a little bit of xanthan gum. This xanthan gum helps stabilise the whole thing, helps create a real nice smooth puree, and it just makes it better overall, really. So we'll add a tiny bit of that right at the end, and we're also going to add a touch of the hazelnut butter, just to carry that through in the dish again. So the puree's been blended now, back on the heat. And all we're going to do to it now is just finish it off with a little bit of white wine vinegar, just to balance it out again. You know, it's quite fatty, so you want some acidity to cut through that. And then just season with a little bit of this and a touch of salt. And then that's ready to go in the squeezy bottle for piping onto our venison in just a moment. So all the components are completed now. We're now into the assembly point of the canapé. So we're going to begin by slicing our venison loins that have been sat in the freezer. We want to go as thin as possible with this. As the base of our canapé. So there's the base of our canapé. Next, we're going to go in with our puree. So this is being served at just above room temperature. It's got a little bit of warmth still in it. So we're just going to pipe a little bit of that on, like so. So now that the puree's on, we're going to go in with these shallots. These are the ones that we were pickling earlier. They've been sat on the side. I mean, you probably want to pickle them for at least sort of an hour, but they'll last anywhere up to sort of a few months, just sat in the fridge, absorbing all that nice flavour. So now that the shallot's on, we want to be adding the texture within the dish, which is going to be these brown butter hazelnuts. We'll just remove some of that outer layer and get a rough chop on these and place a little bit across the top of each one. Like I said, a little bit of garnish on top like so. And then just to finish these ones off, just going to add a touch colour by garnishing with a couple of thyme leaves on each one. And there we have it, our final dish. The venison carpaccio on the bottom there, with caramelised cauliflower puree, some sweet pickled shallots, and then our brown butter hazelnuts on top, garnished with a touch of thyme leaf. If you got lost at all or have any questions about that recipe, head over to the Schöffel website where you'll find the full recipe written down with quantities as well. But yeah, I hope you give that one a go. That's one of my absolute favourites. Goes down an absolute treat at Christmas time, and I hope that you will have a brilliant Christmas and a great new year.